Chamber this week. We're talking about whiskey on ice, reliving how high school dances bite, emphasis necessary, introduce the threat without your players knowing, and spoiler alert, we're talking about Avengers Infinity Wars and the angriest California raisin. And of course, other wacky shenanigans. All this and more on Fandom Roulette. Hey everyone, welcome to Fandom Roulette. This is Joe.
And I'm Cody.
Hey Cody, this is so weird for like so many reasons. First off, it's Monday.
Oh yeah.
A day that like historically was one of my busiest. But like I have Mondays off kind of sort of now, and we're also in the same room together, which I'm sure you folks at home are gonna notice because I don't sound like I'm in an echo chamber.
Woo! Yeah.
So what have you been up to, Cody?
Well, we're going to talk about a handful of them.
Yeah, I know, right?
I've been actually, I've been on an anime kick this weekend. I'm watching as it comes out My Hero Academia, and then I just found out Persona 5 has got an anime.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
I'm watching that and trying to get to the point where I'm at and then not watch it anymore because that game takes literally years to play.
Oh, I did not know that.
It feels like years.
Cool.
What have you been up to?
Same stuff that we're going to be talking about in the episode, but I watched the season premiere of season 2 of Westworld.
Oh, was it good?
It was something. I mean, I'm really excited for the new season, and it set up some interesting ideas and things like that. And then, let's see, outside of that, I've been watching more Legends of Tomorrow, which is still, like, super entertaining, and, like, it's exactly my level of, like, just ridiculous cheese. Like, I don't know if you saw me. Yeah, well, I posted a thing that was like, on this episode of Legends of Tomorrow, they're doing a very intense like discussion about like being like a soldier in Vietnam, and like the one character meets his dad and he like became a villain and stuff, and simultaneously it's also telling the story about a psychic gorilla who is trying to kill President Johnson and kick off World War III to rid the world of humans, and it's happening on the same show. And also, Sir Isaac Newton is there because it's the best show ever. it's everything I've ever wanted in a show.
Oh my god, it sounds good.
It's so good. All right. But anyways, let's talk about history, Cody. Cody, are you thirsty? Fully sound for popping open a bottle and pouring it over some ice.
Yes.
Pop. That's what. Yep, that was onomatopoeic right there.
Ooh.
That's what people are. It's what people expect. This level of professionals. But anyways, hey Cody, I have a question for you that you may or may not know the answer to.
Yeah.
Do you know what the biggest desert in the world is?
No.
It's actually technically Antarctica.
What?
Because desert is more so a measure of annual rainfall per year, and not necessarily like it doesn't have to be sand and like desert and mesas and things like that. It just measures rainfall. So Antarctica is actually technically our largest desert. Another interesting thing about Antarctica is it doesn't actually belong to like any one country. It actually belongs to like 6 countries, I want to say.
Huh.
And so the country that's in charge of the cultural legacy and the cultural history of Antarctica is actually New Zealand. And this is all going to pay off, I promise, because we're talking about like something really kind of cool and weird and interesting, which is you, the consumer, can buy a bottle of history scotch. From
what's history scotch?
Yeah, thank you for asking me, Cody. So in the 1800s, there was this sort of like mad dash of explorers to discover Antarctica and to map it out and to create all these different stories and things like that. see if there were any resources down there, map it out, understand what is happening down there, things like that. And probably one of the most famous of these explorers is a guy named Ernest Shackleton. So Shackleton was British, and he led 3 expeditions to the Antarctic, doing various sort of exploration things, mapping, things like that. And on one of said expeditions, every time they would go down, they would bring lots of supplies with them, and they would set up these little huts that kind of acted as their base camp. And on one of the last expeditions, the expedition that it was one of his last, which I believe was in around the 1900s. I believe 1907 or something like that. Basically, Shackleton and his men had to abandon camp immediately because there was a gigantic storm coming, and it was basically leave now or never make it home.
Damn.
Yeah, right? And so they left, and it was, the area was covered in snow and things. And during the research and the discovery of this area, they discovered this little encampment, and they discovered that everything was basically 100% intact.
Huh.
Because one of the worst things to happen to historical artifacts and things like that is humidity. Humidity is moisture in the air, and so that's the thing that turns paper into that yellowish curl that we're used to. It destroys artwork and all of these different things. In Antarctica, they have very, very low humidity.
Okay.
So things down there remain relatively 100% preserved, more or less, with very little damage. And as they were doing the research, as they were searching through, they actually found some casks or some bottles of whiskey that Shackleton and his men brought down with him. And so, here's, in my opinion, the coolest part of the story. So, they took 3 bottles.
Okay.
One was donated to, or was given to New Zealand to go into their history of the Arctic and Antarctica and Arctic explorations, labeled with Shackleton's whiskey. And then 2 were sent to the distiller, who at this point was bought out by another distillery, but they could still track down where it was originally created. It was a distillery, White and McKay. And so they sent these two bottles back, one for their own records. So it's on display in, I believe, their museum, because historic distilleries can have museums. It's pretty neat. And nice. Then the other thing that they did was they were able to basically draw out a sample of the whiskey and do experimentation on it to figure out the component parts.
Okay.
And they were able to replicate it.
Huh.
And so, you, the consumer, can... they created 50,000 bottles of this scotch. And were able to be purchased. And this is pretty fun. The original bottles were in 2 combination lock containers with a key, so they kept it really tied up. In a U.S. Air Force transport plane to go from Christchurch in New Zealand to Scotland. But there is another connection personally to this podcast, which I have drank history whiskey.
Ooh!
Yeah, my friend, one of my very good friends, actually has lived in Scotland, the Antarctic now twice.
Okay.
He's a geologist. He studies climate change and volcanoes, so he's a volcanologist.
That sounds so cool.
Yes. The reason that Vulcan is called Vulcan is because I believe they have a lot of volcanoes on that planet. But if I'm wrong, don't at me. I'm pretty sure that's the explanation. And it just so happens that my friend also is distantly related to Shackleton himself.
Huh, okay.
So his parents, as a gift, got him a bottle of it. Now it's a blend whiskey, which for those of you at home who don't know, blend whiskey is basically they take a few different single malts and kind of blend them together. And so we've actually had this a few times. It actually is very nice. It had a nice smell to it and things like that. But I just think that this story is super neat, and I was thinking about like what to talk about today, and my mind was suddenly like, we could talk a little bit about nutritional anthropology, which is a fun way of saying the history of food, and I just think it's really cool that through the power of science we were able to like replicate this whole scotch from this Antarctic expedition. I think it's a pretty cool story about also how just like exploration has changed and things like that, where they brought all of the supplies that they needed, including alcohol, which is still a thing. These people do still bring down alcohol with them, but just the fact that they were able to discover and unearth these like relatively like, I believe, the almost perfectly preserved huts that had a full kind of detail of what the last couple of days of this Shackleton expedition would have looked like, mainly because they had to get out of there really quick. There wasn't a lot of case of packing your bags and getting everything to the shore. It was basically get there now or you're not getting home.
Damn.
Yes.
Brutal.
And this was honestly one of the most interesting times of exploration, just because they were using traditional surveying tools and things like that, and lots of heavy parkas and walking long days and things like that, and just the fact that there's such an interesting little piece of history that survives from this expedition that was available for people to experience it, because I'm all about experiential learning or experiencing things just to give you an idea, and so one of the, I think the coolest things about it is there were various levels of it, and the one level, like, you opened it up and it was packaged with a little bit of hay or straw rather,
okay,
which was for the long time basically like packing peanuts.
Okay.
It kept things from breaking, and it kept it relatively insulated. But it showed you an idea of how people would transport things, what people valued to bring on expeditions like this, and just this connection through a tangible thing that we can all relate to. Because you don't necessarily think of whiskey and Antarctic exploration, but there it is. So.
Very cool.
Yeah. Does anyone have any do you have any questions for me? Does anyone have any questions for me? As if we're not the only two in the room. I'm looking. Terry's here.
Oh, Terry!
Terry and James.
Oh, he's shy. As soon as you said his name, he stopped talking.
Yeah, and then of course we have our intern, as always.
Is he a vampire?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I remember him. And we have our new intern.
We have a new intern?
Sure.
Well, I'm just meeting everybody for the first time.
I know,
we're all together.
They're usually hanging out at my pad.
Oh.
Yeah, Terry would always make little faces. He was like, I enjoyed him talking about my creations.
Well, Terry, I'm glad you enjoy this.
Said Terry, and I told him to be quiet. He had to be off mic. But
Okay.
So yeah, any questions?
Okay, so 3 bottles were left.
Or
was it, did they just found 3?
Yeah, I believe it was 3 bottles were shipped, and there might have been more than that.
Okay.
Or it could have very well been the last 3 bottles, but I know that they had intended one to go to the main museum, one to go to the distillery, and one to be kind of like scientifically tested.
Okay.
If there's more down there, I'm not sure. It could very well be that, they want to keep the sites, the sanctity of the sites and things like that.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone's going to be going on, like, Antarctic. I think you can go on Antarctic tours. I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong.
And then, besides just exploring it, was there, like, another motivation for people to, like... Because, like you said, there was, like, a mad rush to, like, really...
Sure. I mean, I feel like as most expedition, especially during that period, we were all, the world was looking for supplies or like raw resources. So
okay.
I'm sure people were looking for oil.
Would you say finite resources?
Yeah, for sure. Finite resources. So yeah, I think people were looking for. They were probably looking for like oil if there were any precious minerals or things like that.
Okay.
And then I feel like there was an added level of like, oh, like it's at the bottom of the world, like it's super cold, it's very difficult to get to because like there's a lot of times where like people would have very narrow windows to get there before the various capes would knock their ships about because you're experiencing currents of two different oceans and things like that. So
okay.
I feel like at its core it was just sort of just like that idea of like raw exploration of
okay.
But I'm sure that there was ideas of trying to get as much like raw resources out of there as you could as well.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's about all I got.
Yeah. So yeah. Well, if that's the case, Terry is just nodding frantically.
He is, and I'm gonna be honest, Terry. You gotta chill out when we're all together, all right?
Imagine this just week in, week out. Terry is sitting.
He's just like,
he's like, oh, please. Talk about my legacy.
So, I played 2 games, but I'm gonna save one.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna play a little more of it this week and get a better. I played a lot of God of War, which I talked about.
Oh, Dad of War?
Yeah, and the dad is still dadding pretty hard.
Okay, that's good. Have you fought any actual gods yet? Would that be a spoiler?
Alright, spoiler tag.
Okay.
For right here, I'm spoiling more Dad of War.
Uh-huh.
Yes, I did eventually kill a Norse god.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, the only reason I ask is
but it's not like the main ones I think of like Odin and Thor,
Loki,
Hela, Freya,
yeah.
Okay. So I've met Freya.
Okay.
Turns out she was a woman that I had already met in the game but had hidden her identity.
Sure. That's like mythology.
And then I met one of Thor's kids.
Okay.
And then I fought 2 more of his kids.
Okay.
Magni and Modi. If that's... I don't know if that checks because
I know very little about Norse mythology outside of the main ones.
And I fucked... I put an axe through one of their faces.
Oh, that's pleasant.
And then the other one's really pissed about it.
I mean, because just the only reason I ask is, I know that they have a fairly expansive, creature mythology as well, and it's I don't actually know what the stats of frost giants are, but I think at least one of them is considered maybe a god, but I could probably be wrong about that as well.
So from the game, I don't know if this is true for Norse mythology, so I guess unspoiler alert.
Sure.
So that I know where to end it.
Got it. Yeah.
From what the game has told me so far, Ymir or Ymir, however you want to say it, Ymir.
Yeah.
He was the first god, he was the first thing to exist in
Allfather.
Yeah, and then he created a bunch of stuff because there was chaos, of course, and then through the chaos came Ymir, the frost giant, and then a fire giant. Now this is all according to God of War. Can't express that enough.
Yes.
And then from Ymir came the other gods and the other different races and things, and
okay.
And then Odin in this game sounds just like a huge asshole. I don't know if that checks.
He is.
Okay. Yeah. So he's a huge dick in this game, and they are trying so hard to make me want to kill this dude. So fingers crossed, I guess.
I
feel like he's the big one, right?
I remember one main thing about Norse mythology more than anything else is that Odin's guiding principle is self-preservation more than anything else.
Yeah, and that seems to be his MO in the game as well.
And so it's I think part of Ragnarok is he's literally trying everything in his power to survive it.
Yeah, survive. I think at this point, survive, prevent, etc.
Yeah.
So far it's pretty good.
Cool.
I'm actually, the more and more I play it, the more I'm loving it. I won't get into too much more. I think I'll do an episode later down the road when I do beat it to give my final points. But so far, continuing down the road, beginning was great. It's still going good.
Cool.
So this week
Yes.
Little mini tangent, because we've never done that before.
Never. That's a first.
In
fact, gosh, put a warning on there. They go on some tangents in this episode.
Yeah, we'll put a tangent tag.
Tangent tag. We'll be the first to put tangent tags on. It'll be revolutionary.
Yes, the future of podcasts.
Yes, never has a podcast tangented before.
Nope, not a single one.
Did we just tangent about a tangent? Oh man, that's meta-tangenting.
Oh no.
Oh god.
Oh, we're the worst.
Now we just drew attention to the fact that we meta-tangented.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, so the game I picked this, it came out April 27th, which I believe was Friday.
This is our most topical episode yet.
Yeah. We're only a couple days off.
Sure.
So I actually bought it like when I woke up Friday, went to work, and then got back from work, saw Infinity War, and then I finally played it on Saturday.
Oh, okay. Cool.
But...
So how is it?
So it's called, for those of you who are finally wondering, what the hell is he going to talk about?
Oh shit, you didn't actually say the name?
No, not yet.
Okay.
It's called Monster Prom.
Okay. Ooh.
And...
I'm pretending like I hadn't heard this name before.
Right. It's not on the screen behind me or anything.
Not at all.
And it was developed by Beautiful Glitch.
Okay.
And it had a Kickstarter that did okay.
Okay.
I mean, it succeeded, I believe.
They kickstarted it?
Yeah, they did kickstart it, but I don't think it's like the best Kickstarter on the planet.
Yeah.
And so basically it's a multiplayer dating sim visual novel.
Okay.
You play the role as one of 4 goofy monster high school kids. And when I say high school, I put that in air quotes because I think and there's a reason for this. I think everyone is at least like 19 and up. They're not actually high schoolers, because when I was a senior in high school, I believe I was 18.
Yeah.
And I had just hit 18.
You can have the occasional odd 19-year-old if they have a really early or really late birthday, but
so in this high school, it's more like freshman, sophomore year of college, because most of them are between 19 and 20s.
Do you know?
Well, I'm going to get to why in a second.
Oh, okay.
Because
jumping the gun there.
Okay, so like I said, it's a dating sim.
Got it.
Your whole goal is Monster Prom is in 3 weeks.
Okay.
You have 3 weeks to go to classes, go to certain places, and basically hit on one of 6 potential candidates.
Okay, good.
There is Polly, the poltergeist.
All right.
And she is insane. She does a bunch of hardcore drugs.
Oh, no.
Yeah, she likes to snort cocaine off of the spine of books.
But I guess it doesn't matter, huh?
Right, because she's a ghost.
Yeah, all right.
And there's Damien, who's a devil boy.
Wow. Good job.
It's actually he looks kind of reminiscent of Hellboy. But a very young high school version of Hellboy, because doesn't Hellboy have his horns cut?
He saws them off, so he
so he has one full horn, and then he's got one kind of sawed down horn, and he loves fire and destruction. He's crazy. There's a wolf boy who's got a big heart but not very smart.
What's his name, out of curiosity?
I don't remember.
Okay. I have a reason for asking.
And then there's a handful of others. There's 6 in total.
Okay, is there a vampire?
Yes, there is a vampire, and he is the hipster nerd of the group.
Oh, of course. Is there a ghoul?
One of the playable characters is a zombie.
Okay.
Yeah, the playable characters one is a I almost want to say a fire elemental, but in human form. So think normal human, but with fire stuff. Her hair is made of fire.
So Liz from Hellboy.
Sure,
Right.
I'm actually not super familiar with the Hellboy franchise.
I think her name is Liz. I might be wrong. She's a human who can control fire. But
okay.
Sounds like it might be a little bit more than that, but
right. And then there's this shadow man
Okay.
The only way I can describe him, his whole body, like he's almost like a silhouette with like clothes on.
Okay.
And he's got like this goofy tail that has a face on it.
Oh, interesting.
I don't really know what it's from, but it's super cute.
That's a decision.
Yeah, and then there's a Zombo who's like kind of like the guy with the varsity jacket.
The jock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
that's funny to me.
And then there's the other female that you get to play. Although this is really nice.
Oh.
When you pick the characters, you can pick your pronoun.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, so like you can be like, I am Cody, and then it says pronoun, and I can pick he, she, or they. And
that's really nice.
I feel like it's very forward.
Good job, guys.
Yeah. And then the game is super... it's super meta. Like, it constantly refers to itself, and like, it's super funny. It's got a bunch of stuff, and there are like something like 230 different things that can happen on any given day.
Well, that's a lot of things that can happen on any given day.
There are like a bunch of different secret endings. Like we found one of the secret endings. Like there's a shop in the game that you can like buy stuff from, and my friend bought a erotic dragon fanfic book.
Oh, sure.
And then his whole story went into just him and like telling people about like how he also writes fanfic for the fanfic.
Ooh.
And it's super funny. It feels very it's well thought out.
Uh-huh.
Like it feels very modern on take.
Cool.
There's like a whole bunch of secrets, but it plays kind of like Mario Party almost.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So like in kind of a more nice spirited way, because like I know Mario Party, at least for me, is like, fuck you, if you steal my star, I'm gonna strangle you with the cord.
Wow, it sounds like you're the only person who's ever had that experience with Mario Party.
No, everyone hates me because the rumor on the street was I was a professional at Mario Party.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So my experience with Mario Party is that we would play it sometimes in high school, and Joel and I would compete for third place. Because like we both knew we were so out of first and second place, but
you guys were fighting for third.
We were fighting for third. Third was our personal first.
Yeah.
But anyways.
So what happens is it's structured by class time,
okay,
lunchroom time, and then evening time.
Okay.
And so the classroom time, everyone can go to a certain classroom, but only one person can go to there.
Okay.
And you can get stats from them. So there's 6 stats in the game.
Just how high school works. And
there's also 6 candidates
to
to get with. And I think the way it works is that every supposed prom, someone because like the whole point is you want to ask one of these 6 charismatic individuals to go to prom with you.
Sure.
So each one, I think, is dedicated to a certain stat. So there's like smarts and creativity and charm and bold and money. Money is one of them, but you can use that to buy things.
Yeah.
And it's really neat because there are certain situations where if you go to the shop and you buy a certain thing, that will change the way that game plays for you, like for the rest of the game. So, like I said, they bought the book. His whole thing, like no matter what he did, everyone was talking about the book.
Okay.
And then you could choose not to buy anything and like go for the the man, woman, or person of your dreams.
Sure.
And it's super silly. It like all the little events made me laugh.
Uh-huh.
It's really fun. I think, if I'm going to be honest, playing, because I played it 2-player and then I played it 3-player. You can do 1 to 4.
Okay.
And what's nice is you can share a controller, so like you just hand the controller over to somebody else, so you don't need like a million controllers to play this game.
That's nice.
Especially because it's on Steam.
Yeah, for sure.
And what's really nice, or my personal favorite, was when we were starting to play with 3 to 4 people, because that's when your choices started to matter.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I was playing with 2, when it was like me and my buddy,
mm-hmm.
we kind of would just kind of like made a truce, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna totally go after this guy, and then you're gonna go after the other person, and then he's like, deal, and then we never really like interacted or like fucked with each other.
Okay.
But when Jess finally jumped in, we were like incidentally fucking each other over all the time because there's not that many places to like go in the game. And
you would just get competitive while playing a game.
Oh God, we're not allowed to. So. I think there's like several states that have laws against us getting competitive with each other.
Oh God, that's really intense.
But it's super fun. I recommend it. I'm pretty sure right now it came out at $15, so it's super cheap. Mm-hmm. The art style is super great. I love. It's got a very like. I'm trying to think of a style that's close to it, but it's got a very it's a Western comic book style, but it's like not super realistic. It's very cartoon, but like you get it, and it feels like you're playing with, monsters.
Sure.
In high school, and it's super fun.
So I have a couple of questions.
Absolutely,
for you, Cody. Do you know if there's any kind of like if they base this off of any properties that you're aware of?
They make a lot of references to other video games.
Okay.
Like I know, so if you go to the auditorium a lot, they're like those 3 weeks, there's like a play going on, and everyone's kind of dressed up in different costumes, and like one of the potential candidates is dressed up as Daisy from the Mario franchise. Okay. One of them is dressed up as Plague Knight, or just like a Plague Doctor in general.
Sure.
From like, either Darkest Dungeon or Plague Knight.
Yeah.
And then I know one of them is dressed up in like a raid set from World of Warcraft. So like they make a lot of punchy references to a lot of things, but I don't think it's very specifically attached to any property or anything like that.
The only reason I ask is I played one session of Monster Heart with some friends, and Monster Heart, for those of you listening at home, is powered by the Apocalypse style system, much like Monster of the Week, where you have like playbooks and stuff. But it's about high school monsters trying to fall in love with each other. I was just curious if there was any crossover between that and this creative team.
I mean, similar theme, but
sure.
I don't know if it was. I don't think it was intentional.
Also, Monster High, the hit tween, poorly CGI animated, horrible, but strangely compelling.
Don't listen to him. He's lying.
Television program with such characters as Frankie Stein, she's a Frankenstein, and Draculaura, she's a Dracula, and Claudine Wolf, she's a werewolf, and Deuce Gorgon, he's a Gorgon.
There's a Gorgon.
Solid!
One of the potential candidates is a Gorgon.
And the only reason I said it was funny that the zombie is like wearing his Letterman jacket is when I played Monster Heart, I made a ghoul who was a jock, and I was going through a really serious Penny Dreadful phase at that time, so I named him after a Shakespeare character, much like all the creatures are named after Shakespeare characters.
Of course.
And Penny Dreadful.
Of course. Yeah.
But yeah, I was just curious because it sounds like there's a lot of crossover, and I wouldn't be surprised if there were some people who worked on Monster Heart who might work on this as well, because Monster Heart's also it's a very progressive game in terms of like respecting gender identity and sexuality and things like that. So
nice.
Yeah,
but it's super fun. It's $15.
Ooh.
If you've got friends who are willing to dick around, it's a good laugh. I think. I played like the games are kind of it's Mario Party, so.
So a short game's like 3.5 hours, something like that.
With 2 people, short game is like 40, but a long game, which is like the full 3 weeks, is 60. But like the higher you go up, 40 is like I think the bare minimum, unless you play single player. But
why bother?
I mean, the appeal is that it's multiplayer. You could play it single player. It's a dating sim, so might as well, right? But I think the appeal to it is the fact that it is, in fact, multiplayer.
Yeah, I've never heard of a multiplayer sim before.
Yeah. So that's what I've been up to.
Yeah. Man, it's the middle section, it's the middle section, it's the middle section. Come on down to the middle section and learn about our stuff. Learn about us, Learn about us, it's middle section time. Cody, you saw that coming right off the dome, so...
Yeah. That was HD quality middle section.
Oh, God.
And I think the mic is starting to slowly melt from that.
Oh, no.
So...
Anyway, welcome to the middle section.
Yeah.
Friends and benefactors.
Exactly. For those of you who are listening, if you want to get in on this conversation, if you want to impact what we talk about,
yes,
you can get at us on Twitter at fandomr_podcast.
I'm there.
That's where Joe is, and he'll tell me, because that's what we do.
That's true.
If you want to send us something personal, like if you want to send me some fanfic of Talon, because I'm going to keep asking.
Yes, you are. It's never going to end.
It's never going to end. You can send us an email, or rather, instead of the joke, you could send us questions about the things we talk about, or things that we haven't talked about.
Or Talon fanfiction.
Or Talon fanfiction.
Yep.
I know for the D&D section, we've got some pretty loyal fans who ask us questions about how we run our role-playing games and how you play them.
Yeah.
So if you want to do that, fanroulettepodcast@gmail.com.
Yes.
That is where we are.
That is true.
And then, last but certainly not least...
Middle section.
No!
Middle
If you
section.
no, if you want to find an easy website or a source,
Oh yeah, that part.
yeah, the source of all of our cosmic power,
No.
you can find us at www.fandomroulette.com.
Uh-huh.
That's where we'll be. And if
Yes.
you're a little more tech savvy, or just more podcast savvy, you can get at us at where you can get podcasts.
Yeah.
We're also on iTunes.
Go ahead, rate us and subscribe and download.
Yeah, do all the things, and then we're also on SoundCloud.
That's true. Also, come hang out and listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
Middle section time.
I think the mic broke.
But anyways, oh man, hot off the presses. It's a garbage kid. They're here. So anyway, garbage kid is of course our post midsection sequence where we give you guys a little bit of, we randomly roll a character that you can potentially use as an NPC, and or if you're trying to figure out like a backstory for a character, you can use this as well. We don't care. Just have fun with it. And if you happen to use it...
Wait a minute.
What?
Where did you get it from?
Oh, that's going to get there, Cody. And if you ever do throw a character into an RPG or things like that, please tell us how you utilize them, because I personally would love to hear it. Because we made some weird, crazy characters. And if at the very least you just use the names or the name generator, like, that's cool too. But anyway, I wrote this from a little book that you might have heard of. It's from Wizards of the Coast, a company that developed the hit role-playing game Dungeons and Dragons. And it's Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Now, I know what you're thinking, Cody. No possible way could it have everything. And you're a liar. Because it has everything. Yeah. That was cumbersome, but I got it.
Yes.
I got there. So anyway, I want to introduce you to my new friend, who I did not determine their gender because it could really go one way or the other.
Okay.
Comet Dreadcorner.
Dude.
So Comet Dreadcorner is a neutral halfling sorcerer who started their lives as an entertainer.
Ooh.
Comet knew who their parents were.
Okay.
And was born in a castle, keep, tower, or palace.
Fancy.
That's up to you, dear listener. They have 5 siblings.
Cool.
Who are younger than them.
Ooh.
And they were raised by a single mother or stepmother because the father disappeared to an unknown fate.
Oh, no.
So they were comfortable and lived in a mansion. And they had few close friends and lived an ordinary childhood.
This guy sounds pretty... this person sounds pretty legit.
Comet became an entertainer because they always had a keen insight into other people, enough so that they could make them laugh or cry with their stories or songs. And they became a sorcerer because they suffered a terrible emotional or physical strain, which brought forth their latent magical powers. and they have fought to control it ever since. What is that? It's up to you, listener. So, Comet is 21 to 30 years old and had 3 life events. They fought in a battle and acquitted themselves well and are remembered as a hero, so they might have a medal for their bravery.
Cool.
They suffered a tragedy. A lover disappeared without a trace, and they have been searching for that person ever since. And they had a supernatural experience. They witnessed a falling red star, a face appearing in the frost, or some other bizarre happening. They are certain that it was an omen of some sort. Perhaps that was something that led to you discovering your latent sorcerer abilities. So yeah, if you want Comet to be like a fun little side character, that's super cool. If you want Comet to sort of be like the leader of your NPC brigade, that's also cool as well. Or perhaps Comet is part of the secret thread. Please utilize it in any way that you see fit. And that was the Garbage Kid.
Yes.
Right. Oh, Cody, if it says here at the end that this Garbage Kid will
No.
I'm dead now.
I'm dead inside right now.
You have to record the podcast on your own now, Cody.
No,
Cody.
So guys,
Cody, this is your mentor. This is me trying to do an Alex Guinness impression, but it just.
Oh my god, that was. That was not what I was thinking at all.
Oh, okay. Well, anyways,
out from the rubble of this terrible bit
is Alex Guinness's bad ghost corpse.
Oh god.
Use the force, Cody. There we go. We're getting a little... Nope.
You lost that.
You lost it. I had it for a second.
I could hear it for just a brief moment, but then you just dialed it up.
That's true. Use the force, Cody. Yes. That might be going a little more Palpatine than I was anticipating. Wait, no. We're gonna spend like 10 minutes on this. It's cool. Like, no. We're good. We're running short. Terry over there is giving
he's giving us
the expand key, and I don't want to disappoint Terry.
For all of you at home, you just witnessed our shoddy chair equipment.
Don't worry about it. You heard nothing. That wasn't the sound you were listening for. Yep, there he is. Alec Guinness, from beyond the grave through Joe Scott's the master of 1,000 voices.
That is a title for you. Anyways, from out of the rubble of this horrible bit comes the role-playing game section, because we play...
Oh shit, we have a podcast recording.
Yeah, we're recording a podcast right now.
Oh god.
Oh no.
So
we have the RPG section where we like to talk about new stuff that's coming up or answer questions about things that people struggle with or perhaps would like insight on.
Sure.
And we've been doing questions for a little bit now.
It's like like 5th week strong.
I think so. Yeah.
On questions. User submitted questions.
Yeah.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's super awesome.
So anyways, what's the question this week, Cody?
The question for this week, thank you, John and Keisha, again.
Yeah.
How to subtly introduce a growing threat, such as a cult, demons, or political adversaries.
Oh.
Yeah. So I actually, and the reason I wanted to talk about this is not only have I already done that.
Yeah.
In our current campaign with you.
That's true.
I'm also thinking about doing it again.
Oh.
However...
With us still?
No. It's for another group, but that group listens to this, so I'm thinking about it.
Okay.
Winku.
Both groups listen to it, but...
Right. Anyway.
That counts for like 7 of our listeners. All 7 of you.
All 7 of you listening. So no... This was actually I was very worried about doing this the first time, but I don't think you guys knew what was going on when I introduced... Gosh, it was so, the seeds were sown so long ago, a year and some change ago.
Was it Johnny Quick or whatever? Are you talking about that growing threat? Or?
Oh, no. I mean, well, yeah, he's part of it. So, and you still don't have the whole story yet, so this is going to be a little bit of spoilers for you.
Oh, God.
But that's okay.
Yeah. Spoilers for a thing that they don't actually get to experience because we play it in the comfort of our own friend's living room.
So, my personal, and this is a bit of a side tangent, so oops, sure. Sorry.
Cool.
I usually don't, for a campaign, for something long going that I know you guys are going to be playing for a while, I don't incorporate one threat.
Yeah.
I always have several in case you guys are either bored or somehow through luck or the die rolls, you manage to beat the guy that I thought was going to last a lot longer.
Sure.
Because I know one thing's for sure, I can never prepare for what my party members are going to do.
That's accurate.
So I always have several threats, and and even still, you can also have secret allies, people who are helping you, who you might not know are helping you, or help you so little, and then finally you'll get to a point where you go, aha, you've been helping us the whole time.
Oh, man.
So, what?
I just had a thought. Never mind. Keep going.
So the way I do this is often it starts with just a phrase. So let's take, for example, we'll do a cult.
Okay.
Start with a cult. Kiss. We have a secret cult. How did it? No. Oh. You got me. You got me good. I wasn't expecting that. That's true. Except I started singing along with it. It was like...
It's cool. We were all...
yeah?
We were all that age once. But anyways, going
on. So, honestly, what I do is I figure out what they're doing and why they need to be so secretive about it.
Okay. Cool.
So, in the case of... you guys...
Yeah.
And again, this is going to be... mild spoilers. I think you guys kind of figured out Tolvir's. So Tolvir was kind of... He was the villain, but the party never knew what he was up to.
Yeah.
At least for a little bit, until you and Finn kind of stuck your noses where it didn't belong.
What? This never happened before.
Right. So if we're doing a cult, like, what are they doing in secret? Are they trying to summon the end of the world? Are they trying to summon a devil or demon to come out from the nine hells to wreak havoc on the land?
Are they trying to take over the land?
Are they trying to take over? Are they kind of more like Illuminati and like kind of control everything in the scheme, like in the backdrop? Like,
are they trying to discover a secret pie recipe?
Yeah, that's a thing you can do.
Hey man, sometimes there are secret pie recipes out there.
Yeah.
You don't know.
I don't know. But anyways, you have to figure out what your cult is doing and why they need to be secret.
Got it.
Second, and this is the hardest part,
you
can't drop really big hints.
Yeah.
I think you have to imagine that as much as your party can do some crazy stuff that you never considered, and sometimes it fails in horrific fashion, they are typically very intelligent human beings. So if you drop really big hints, they're gonna find out real quick.
Yeah.
And your whole growing threat will be found out in 3 sessions. So honestly,
it's really hard to roleplay dumb. I'm not gonna lie.
So
it's challenging sometimes.
Honestly, what I do, and it doesn't even have to be every session. If you want them to be so far in the back, do the normal shit that you do. Throw monsters, throw encounters, life-changing events, all that stuff. But occasionally you drop something. Like for instance, there was a certain person, or in your campaign, there was a certain person who said something and he was confused at the way you were phrasing your sentence, which ended up being very important later. In this case, maybe it's just there's a cave drawing, or like you're in a cave and there's a cave drawing on the wall of a weird symbol. And that's the symbol for the cult. But you don't tell them that. You don't say, this is the symbol for the cult. You just say, yeah, here's that weird symbol. and maybe, you know, design it however you want. Show, and it's cool. It's always cool to have like some kind of visual. I don't get to do that as often because I'm strapped for time for the most part. But like if you have a cult, have their symbol show up in weird places, like in weird places, and be like, here's that symbol. And they probably, if you space it out like every other session, depending on how frequent you play, it's gonna be hard to notice.
Okay.
And then kind of ramp it up from there. You know, like, okay, you've seen a couple of these symbols, and they always seem to happen in weird places that you're going to. Then the next town they go to, things are a little weird. People are a little on edge. Okay. You know, everyone's a little confrontational. They're very easy to say fuck off when you're trying to like inquire about something.
Sure.
They're not very helpful when you get to town. And then you don't stay in the town for very long. And then maybe they come back and then they're even more aggressive with you. It's almost to the point of confrontation.
Okay.
Just very slowly, like drive up. Like what is the cult doing? So, like in the case of summoning a demon, well, what do they need to summon the demon? Maybe they're, you know, every time they go to a new town, there's always like someone missing.
Okay.
Maybe it's, you know, maybe it's someone insignificant the first time. Like maybe it's like, and you say it in passing, like, oh, the local crier boy said, extra, read all about it. Old man Jenkins missing from his home. And maybe you're not even on that quest. Maybe you're on a quest to stop bandits nearby.
Cool.
And maybe you think, okay, well, maybe he's missing from that. But then you go to the next town, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, all the children are missing. You know, a bunch of children have gone missing. And you just slowly build up from there. You know, get more progressively, you know, sporadically, of course. If you do it every session, they're going to know something's up. Yeah, and you always want to do it at different times. You don't want to set it up being, for instance, you don't want the beginning of the session to be like, on the, you know, you guys walk into town and that weird thing happens, like the thing you're trying to set up. Like if you do it every time at the beginning as they get to a new town, they're going to pick up that every time they go to a new town, some weird shit's happening.
Sure.
And I feel like that kind of goes again. Again, your players are super smart, and it's going to be even better when they finally figure out, like, oh shit, this whole time that cult's been doing that. So
yeah,
you gotta play it slow. You don't want to. If you do it every session, you gotta hide it real well.
Yeah. You
can't just drop weird shit in the middle of like a conversation with like an NPC or something. Like it has to be like the party was going somewhere where they shouldn't have been. Like they broke into somewhere and they found a weird book about, and it had that symbol in it again.
Sure.
I think slow and very subtle, especially if you're playing a game that's going to last a long time. And I think that's where this concept thrives, is those long games. And so I was always playing a long game with you guys. Like the whole, we had a big reveal about what Tolvir, or their ally NPC, who they've been calling Lil T, actually is. And I've been slowly giving you guys information this whole time.
Yep.
Yeah. And it wasn't until... And what happened was, I was actually going to play that game a little longer. However, I made the cardinal sin of giving one of our party members, David, too big of a hint.
Oh, okay.
He was having a conversation with somebody, and he talked about Lil T, and I said, it's interesting that you call him that. And that's where he started to make the connections.
Oh, I wouldn't have picked up on that.
See, I didn't think he would either. So that's why I said, like, some of your party members are going to be real keen on the things that you're saying.
Yep.
Because oftentimes those things that changes, or at least in my games, those could be life and death.
Yep.
So those are my personal thoughts.
Yeah.
Well, coming from a player, do you like the concept of a kind of secret organization? Does that kind of thing excite you, or?
I mean, to a certain extent, yeah. I feel like it. Yeah. I think that sometimes my brain is more inclined to draw parallels that like might not have been there. Or if they were there, like I misinterpreted them in a certain way. A big one in my mind is I conflated an organization that we have been fighting this whole time with like the main big bad, and it could be connected. Still, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that like with things like a cult, say, it's always smart to make that like kind of like a back burner to a main outward threat.
Yeah.
So like you always want to have like the big bad and then the growing threat surrounding it. So I think a good example of that in terms of like media, and this could be considered a spoiler alert for a show that's pretty old at this point, the TV show Fringe.
Yep.
Where it's like every season has its own big bad, and then the twist in the last season, I know this was kind of divisive, but I always thought it was kind of cool, was that those mysterious like watchers that had been popping up throughout the thing were actually kind of like a evil clandestine organization that comes back to time to take over to fix the time stream or whatever. And so it's like, they were there from the beginning, and like, but like if they were the only villain, I would have found that to be kind of meh. But the fact that it was like these subtle drops, and like some of them were a little bit more benevolent than others, and to have the final reveal be that like no, they were actually always kind of like an evil organization from the beginning, I thought worked really well.
Yep.
Another thing I thought was kind of interesting is you as a DM are very good at like establishing rules and then kind of turning those rules on their ear. And so an example of that I will throw out is early on we were fighting creatures that had like these magical slave collars that we always just associated with the big bad. And then when my character and Finn started poking our nose where we didn't belong, we noticed that inside the main layer no one was wearing slave collars. It was completely voluntary. People were just coming of their own volition. And then when we went to the main dragon island, we realized that everyone who was not a dragon was wearing these slave collars. And it planted a seed of doubt in my character's mind.
And I've got a fucking big ass grin because that was
so good. And so it's just this idea of you're really good at establishing rules and then kind of pulling and who knows, maybe like because that's his sort of like quote unquote false face organization, he wants it to look very benevolent, or it could just be that it's like he saw the error of the dragon's ways in that particular sense and is trying a different way going forward. Who knows? But yeah, I don't know, but I think too, I like the idea of having long-term villains and things like that, and I think it's always smart to, if you have it be like a cult or things like that, don't make it necessarily the big bad, but definitely make it an omnipresent thing.
Yeah.
So that's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah. As
a character. But, every person is different. I'm sure there are people out there who love putting together the mystery and finding out the reveal. I'm in it more for creating pathosy scenes.
Yeah. No, I get it. Everyone's playing at a different level, sure. And I think that if I could give like a side tangent, like a little tidbit for would-be DMs or players, is that everyone's kind of always playing a little bit of a different game than you are.
Oh, 100%.
And while some people, like you just said, you're in it for like those really deep emotional scenes where we all get teary-eyed, or we laugh in joy, where some people are in it for the mystery. Like I would say that in our campaign, David's been very much like, I'm trying to figure out how things work.
Phoebe's been into that.
Yeah, and she's also been into that.
And so it's like, a couple of weeks ago we had a joke where our we had characters just sitting in the library for hours upon hours, where like other characters wanted to do things. And it was like, ugh, get out of the library, like, please. But like, to those two characters, like, we were kind of stepping on their play style a little bit, I suppose.
Right. I mean, it's, again, we were all joking. It was all in good fun.
Yeah, 100%. But anyways, so yeah, that's our nice little RPG section. And we are now going to say, spoiler alert, the rest of this episode is going to be very spoilery if you've not seen the movie Avengers Infinity War, which, given box office records and limited showtimes, is likely.
And we don't want to be rude, so if you haven't, we're marking it right now.
Spoilers. If you decide to turn off the episode, thank you so much for listening. I'm Joe.
I'm Cody.
And as always, stay nerdy.
Super nerdy.
Okay, cool. So if you were able to see the movie over the weekend, welcome back.
Welcome.
Avengers Infinity War came out this weekend.
It did.
It is the first part of a kind of always planned 2-part finale to the first, and this is going to sound crazy, decade of Marvel films.
Oh boy.
I was thinking about it. It was like I did not see Iron Man in theaters because like no one actually knew that it was going to become the phenomenon it became.
I'm trying to remember if I saw it in theaters. I don't think I did.
In 2008. That's nuts. That was the year I graduated from high school. Like,
oh yeah, you're right. Damn.
Isn't that insanity? Like,
oof.
It's so weird to think about.
It was good too.
It was. Well, and I think that was the thing. So to give just the briefest backstory of a story you guys probably already know. In like the 90s, Marvel Comics wasn't doing very well, and they did 2 kind of drastic decisions, which was they sold off Spider-Man and the X-Men to Sony and Fox. Because of all their properties, they knew that those were ones that were going to make money.
That's fair.
And so, but they held on to a lot of other characters. It's just that, and it's absurd to think of now, at the time, characters like Iron Man, Thor, Captain America were not household names.
Nope.
By any stretch of the imagination.
Maybe in certain circles, but yeah, for the most part, in a general mainstream thing, I don't think they were super popular.
It's like, if you asked a person on the street, like, in the 90s, could you rattle off some, like, Marvel characters? Probably everyone knows Spider-Man.
Yeah.
X-Men were popular, specifically Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
You probably get some Hulks thrown in there.
Yeah.
And then outside of that, like, like I said, you get your odd smatterings of other characters.
Yeah.
And so, there was kind of a risk taken when they produced Iron Man, because it was not a household name, except that movie was very, very good. It was very, very funny, and it was impressive. And so, and then it teased the Avengers at the end. So fast forward 5 years, I want to say, 2012. 4 years, 2012. The first Avengers movie comes out, and everyone's like, how are they going to be able to balance 6 characters? That's absurd.
I'm going to be real. That's my first thought when that movie was coming out. I was like, how are you going to do all this?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Like, never had anyone attempted a movie with that many individual tones combined into one big thing, and then threw a couple more characters on top of it.
Yep.
Because, like, Hawkeye was not he had a cameo in Thor, and then Black Widow pops up in the end of Iron Man 2, but for the most part she's pretending to be Tony Stark's assistant. That movie is, really good. It was impressive. It was quick. It was witty. It was fun. And now, in 2018, we have Avengers Infinity Wars, which literally has, like, I would say, like, 30...
It's a ridiculous number.
Named characters.
It's definitely like high 20s, low 30s.
Which is absurd.
There's a lot of people.
And so, like, you're watching the trailers, and, like, I don't know about you, but, like, I was excited about it because I knew it was going to be an entertaining Marvel movie.
Sure.
I was convinced that there was a chance it was going to, like, fall under its own weight.
I was initially... I didn't get those, like, immediate tickets. Like, we got lucky and that everyone said it was great, and then we just happened to find 2 seats at a showing, so we went. I was convinced that many characters on screen for a 3-ish hour movie was going to flop. Just too much chaos going around.
Yeah, too many irons in the fire.
And I will say this, though.
Okay.
For those of you who don't care about spoilers and you're not necessarily Marvel fans and you're listening to see what our thoughts are.
Yeah, sure.
This movie, I think, and I don't know if I would call this a fault. I don't think so, but I definitely think it, like, takes a couple points, is that you cannot go into this movie without seeing the majority of the rest of the films in some fashion, because there are many things that they refer, because like again, we have 30 characters.
Yeah.
We've got 3 hours. We gotta fucking go.
Yeah.
We gotta go. If you don't have those like
that foundational knowledge.
Yeah, if you don't have that foundational knowledge of the characters and why they mean the way they do, like if you didn't see Guardians of the Galaxy, you wouldn't know anything that they were doing or like what the hell they were.
I could, in theory, pare it down to 5 movies. Like
you could probably watch.
Movies.
Yeah, there's definitely a must-see list.
I would say, in my opinion, it would be Avengers 1, Guardians 1, Black Panther, probably Civil War, and then Thor Ragnarok. Only because the beginning of the movie is like almost a direct sequel to Thor Ragnarok.
That's true. Yeah, the end of Thor Ragnarok is basically the
beginning of Infinity Wars.
Right.
That would be my 5, but at the same time,
but even with that though, you're missing characters. So, anyways, like that. My point is, if you are unfamiliar, like you should definitely like a lot of these movies are on Netflix and things like that. Some of them. And usually you can find them pretty cheap, or, there's always rental places. I know Amazon has like a whole system to watch them.
Sure.
So if you haven't seen them, you should watch.
Get out there.
Yeah, get out there and start watching them because they're pretty good. But that was my thing.
Sure. Yeah.
It definitely felt like if I didn't have that information, like a lot of like conversations or little like quips between certain characters, I would be like, wait, I don't get it.
Sure, I understand that.
But I don't necessarily think that's a fault. It's just like a, warning. Like,
yes,
everyone loves this movie, and a lot of the big, like, bonuses or the things that people like is a culmination of 10 years,
of a decade of storytelling
into this like fantastic moment.
Which impressive, guys.
Yeah,
I tip my hat to that. But anyway, so it's the first part of this movie. And so the basic storyline is you have Thanos, who's actually another kind of hesitation for me.
Yeah, you didn't like the choice of actor for Thanos?
Oh no! It was more so this idea that Thanos keeps getting teased at the end of the movies, right?
Yeah,
where he's like the first one he smiles, and that was pretty sinister. But like. Basically, from that point onward, like, everything related to Thanos was Thanos losing.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
It's like...
There's a lot of, like, down moments with Thanos.
Yeah, so, like he technically loses at the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
He technically loses at the end of Thor Ragnarok, Thor the Dark World, because they take, like, the chest to the Collector, and it's kind of hidden.
Right.
It's like all of these different things. And so it's like you're trying to establish Thanos as this big overarching threat while at the same time establishing Thanos as a guy who can't do the main thing he's trying to do.
Yeah, and I think it kind of ends up being that very typical like bad guy syndrome that seems to happen with a lot of like cartoons and comic books and things is like the big guy, they always want to save him for last because he's like, oh shit, he's finally here. And so he always sends in like the lackeys who just can't fucking get anything right, and they always feel very like I'm really strong, but wow, I can't grab the stone.
The Worf effect.
Yeah.
But that being said, Thanos was amazing.
Oh, so good.
Josh Brolin crushed it.
Absolutely.
There was a shockingly high amount of like pathos.
Yes.
Related to Thanos, which I was not even close to expecting.
Nope.
Especially because it's like, I know this is like a general consensus, is that like the villains aren't the strongest part of especially the earliest Marvel movies.
Yep.
It's gotten a lot better in late Phase 2. Like, the last 3, Black Panther had a really good villain. Oh goodness. I liked Ego. I thought he was a really compelling villain from Guardians too.
Okay, yeah. He's solid.
Yeah, and then I liked Hela well enough. I think there were interesting things being said around her that she herself wasn't actually saying. But,
right.
Hey. But yeah, but you know, it was interesting because he had a very clear motivation.
Yep.
And that in that classic good villain way, it was motivation that makes the audience pause for a second.
Oh, for sure.
Especially in the episode or in the scene where he's talking to Gamora, and he's like, "Have you been to your planet since I killed half of them? It's a paradise now."
Yeah, like the shit that he's doing is like weirdly working.
Yeah, it's like it's horrible and it's monstrous and it's nothing that we could ever conceive of because, you know, it's randomly killing half of a population and not necessarily by any merits of like it's not like, oh, I'm going to kill a certain sect of people, or I'm not going to kill like the weakest amongst you, or I'm not going to kill the strongest. It's literally just like,
I'm going to kill half of you at random.
We're going to make 2 lines, and if you're in line A, you get shot, and if you're in line B, you get to survive. And there's no judgment outside of how you're pushed around.
Yep.
And like Cody said, like it's kind of working in some cases, and so it gives some pause. But yeah, so some smart things I think the movie did. Good villain, obviously, always good.
Very good choice.
They mitigated the fact that there were like a bazillion characters in that it was kind of 3 core storylines, and then at the end it became 2 core storylines. So they split up the characters really well, where it wasn't like, there was never a point where it's like, all right, now we're seeing what Captain America is doing, and now we're seeing what Thor is doing, and now we're seeing what Iron Man is doing, and now we're seeing what Doctor Strange is doing, and now we're seeing what Spider-Man is doing, and now we're seeing what like Peter Quill is doing. Like it was, we're seeing what Chunk A is doing. We're seeing what Chunk B is doing. We're seeing what Chunk C is doing.
Yeah, it was good on them for figuring out really good dynamic groups.
Yeah,
because like they did you know, flip things around. You know, like for a bit it's Iron Man, Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange, which is very strange.
It worked really well though because
it did.
They were all created by Steve Ditko. Fun little comic fact for you.
No, hey. But like that was a really good group.
That was a good group.
The Guardians of the Galaxy with Thor
was the best.
It was so good.
Especially because of how they changed Thor in Ragnarok, where it was so much more tonally like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
That like now Thor works really well, especially all that stuff with him and Rocket forging the hammer.
Yep.
That was so weird and cool. Like,
dude, I loved like every second of that.
Oh my god, me too. They were getting weird with it, and like I think at the end of the day, that's what I appreciated the most. And then of course you had like Captain America with, you know, Bucky, T'Challa, that core Avengers group.
Yeah.
And so I think that the getting of the gems was simultaneously rather quick, and at the same time felt like it was taking a long time.
Yeah, it's so weird because it's such a like. So at the beginning, he only has the one.
He has one,
which is the purple one that the original
Power Stone.
Yeah, which the Guardians of the Galaxy 1 movie was based on.
Yes,
and so they gave it to that planet with Nova Corps and all that.
Yes,
and then it's later spoilers revealed that planet got fucked.
He blew it up.
He gets the second one, the blue one, which is fucking brutal, by the way.
It was great. And then he gets the third one off screen.
Does he?
Yeah, because they're going to the Collector because he has the Reality Stone, and then there's that awesome scene where Gamora kills Thanos, and then it reveals that he had created like the illusion.
Oh, that's right.
To see if Gamora was going to actually kill him or not.
Right.
He gets the Power Stone by killing Gamora, or the Soul Stone by killing Gamora.
Yeah, big spoilers. Fucking Loki.
Oh, we put the tag like
right, but like Loki
ago.
And Gamora get iced before anything real starts to happen.
So,
I mean, he fucking chokes out Loki, just like nah, brah.
So bold. And another thing they got out of the way really nice, quick, which I thought was nice. Someone saw a reviewer pointed this out. Hulk versus Thanos. They got out like the first 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, and it was
fine.
It was neat, and then all of a sudden Thanos was just kicking ass, and I was like, oh damn.
Yep.
It definitely set the tone for Thanos being a fucking hard ass.
It shows his power level. He gets the time stone. Oh, did you see that, by the way? That was my little joke that I made, which was Infinity Wars was the best anime I've ever seen. Even down to the fact where they have to fight the 4 generals before they can fight him.
Right.
I was like, oh, this is such a good anime.
It's good. Yeah.
And then at one point, Doctor Strange literally Naruto'd all over the screen. There 50,000 versions of himself.
Oh my god.
And then, so I like to talk about one last thing before we talk about the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Which is, I feel like in any other movie, I would have found this cheap and frustrating, but it worked perfectly for me. Which is, you have that scene where Scarlet Witch has to confront the fact that she has to kill Vision, her, significant other.
Right.
She's the only one powerful enough to do it. And so there's that scene where she's channeling her energy into Vision, she's channeling her energy to stave off Thanos. It's working. She breaks it. Vision dies. And then Thanos takes the glove and he has the time manipulating stone to put it back together.
Oh, it's so
and then
fucking
rip
brutal.
it out of his head. And I feel like in another movie that would frustrate me to no end. But in that movie, it worked so well because
she had to fucking relive that twice.
She had to relive it.
She had to relive it.
And so that noble sacrifice that she had to make was completely for nothing. And so good.
Also, I think this says something about this movie is straight up brutal.
It is. It's very dark.
It's very grim, dark, brutal, and I think if you go into it thinking anything else, you're going to be shocked, just like every other person in the theater was.
It's certainly no Avengers 1.
Definitely
sure.
not. But yeah, there is a tone, and they stick to it through the whole movie, and I think that was my personal highlight, was it was dark all the way to the end. There was no moment where they haha, we're changing the theme on you. It's This was fucked from the beginning.
But they were able to have enough quips to make it fun. So.
Oh yeah, it was definitely fun. You definitely need some good humor within your grimdark. Sure. But they didn't they didn't pull out of grimdark right at the end to be haha.
And then that ending.
The ending though. Holy shit! I still can't believe it.
You know what my favorite part of the ending was?
Huh?
And this might be considered weird.
Sure.
So up into that point, so Thanos snaps his fingers, and people are starting to disappear.
Yes.
And up until that point, it is characters that don't have names or secondary characters. I was pretty sure Bucky wasn't going to make it out of this movie.
Yeah, I didn't
and so
think
it's that's a secondary character. I know a lot of people really love him, but he's a secondary character in all these movies.
Yeah.
And there's that scene where T'Challa walks up to Okoye.
Dude!
And he's like, no, this is not the place that we die. And so, it's setting it up because you expect Okoye to die. Because, she's an important character, but she's not a crucial character.
Right.
You know? She's not, she's fan favorite, she's important, but, the world wouldn't stop spinning if she wasn't there. And then he dies.
Dude,
or
total reversal.
He disappears. And, I was at that point, I was oh, wait, there's no plot armor right now.
Yeah, there was definitely no... the people... So I don't think we'll get to every single death.
No, not at all.
But there is literally no, guarantee for any person in these films. The people who you thought... Because Jess and I had a list of the people who were safe and the people who died. And we were wrong. Yep. We were so wrong on...
And, the fact that it was... Oh, man. It was so well done between the visuals of them, turning into, weird, ash.
Yeah.
And then the swelling of the music. The fact that you have characters literally holding on to other characters as they're disappearing, and some of them are very calm about the whole thing, and some of them are very emotional about the whole thing, and all of these things, and it literally tore your heart 8 different directions.
Yep.
And I'm not gonna lie, I had the tiniest cynical blip in my heart where it was like, yeah, but they already started filming Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Yeah, I mean, so...
Unless it's just going to be like Adam Warlock and Rocket just like flying through the stars. But
yeah,
it was just impressively well done for a movie that could have been an utter disaster.
Well, and there was so much hype. This is one of those movies that for those of you who are listening who aren't Marvel fans, this was like the kind of like up there to Marvel's swan song for the whole 10 years.
Yeah, for sure.
And it could have either gone really, really good, which it did. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, it's up there in my like top 5 for Marvel movies.
Marvel movies, yeah, I would put it up there too. I definitely like to see it again.
Yeah, I definitely want to see it again as well. But it was just 10 years of all this stuff building up. This villain who had been in a bunch of like secret little clips at the end of the movie, to being referenced pretty often with Guardians of the Galaxy, and it was just, it was so good.
It was really good, and I think that this might be a perfect place to end it.
Well, hold on, I got a question to ask you. I know we're running long. This is our
This is our Infinity War.
So. And I guess I can answer as well.
Sure.
Before you saw the movie,
yes,
who did you think was definitely not going to die? And hold on, it's a two-parter.
Going to die. Okay.
Definitely wasn't going to, like, who in your head was like, they've got plot armor, this is all fine. Like, you're number one. And then who was your, like, where did your heart finally explode on character death?
Okay. Those are 2 really good questions.
Mine, unfortunately, is the same character for both.
Oh, okay.
So for me, my plot armor exists, you can't die, and the saddest one for me was Peter Parker.
Was it both? Yep, I was about to say, was it both Spider-Man?
Because Jess and I were convinced, like, they have, like, the only movies that exist right now outside, like, there's Ant-Man and Wasp, there's Captain Marvel, that's coming out in the future, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and Spider-Man Homecoming 2. They just got Spider-Man back. I was convinced. I was just like, there's no way. Yeah. There's no way he's going to die. And his scene tore me up.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't, like, someone dies heroically, like, I'm sad, but, like, I don't tear up. But, like, the reluctant death where they don't want to go, it tears me up. Kills me every time.
Sure.
And he definitely did not want to go.
Yeah, that was definitely the heartbreaking one.
Okay.
I think that's probably going to be everyone's heartbreaking one.
That's fair.
A character who I was convinced wasn't going to die.
And preferably, and then they did, but if they didn't end up dying, then yeah, you guessed right.
I was thinking Doc Strange might have gotten through it. Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Just because, like, there's that whole Sorcerer's Supreme aspect, and, you know, like, I know his powers, like, in the comics and things like that, and so, like, I was fairly convinced that he wasn't going to die.
Okay.
But definitely Peter broke my heart. Peter Parker broke my heart, because there's also Peter Quill.
Yeah.
Literally,
which his felt very, like, it was very, like, short and, like, kind of uneventful. It felt very much like...
Yeah, go ahead.
And I don't know if this is a writing thing or a Chris Pratt thing or whatever, but I didn't like his, like he was trying to be snarky to the bitter end, and it felt like it fell flat for me.
Okay, so I thought of an interesting thing about it, which was... I feel like it ties into Guardians of the Galaxy 2 a lot better than I initially thought.
Okay.
Because a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is, like, pretty critical of Peter's whole, like, man-boy persona.
Okay.
Just not quite as overtly critical as Infinity War was.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, like, he kind of frustrated me. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I didn't like the jealous Star-Lord bit.
Yeah, it was cool to demonstrate toxic masculinity, but anyways, digression aside. I thought that Doctor Strange was gonna make it through. I don't know why. Yeah. I was fairly convinced that, I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure Steve's gonna make it. Like,
that was one of the ones where I was convinced that either one, Captain America or Iron Man, was gonna eat it. And part of me was like, I don't know if Iron Man can. I think unfortunately they spook you on his death when Thanos throws I think it throws a piece of his armor into his chest.
Especially because that was in the advertising campaigns as well.
Was it?
It was throughout the campaign. There was like scenes of Thanos confronting Tony.
Yeah. And
talking about like, hope they remember you fondly and things like that. So one of the reasons I kind of thought about this about halfway through the movie that they were both going to make it was the fact that they never actually had a reunion scene.
Oh, you're right.
And I feel like they need to have a big confrontation fallout.
Yeah.
But,
I know we
Infinity Wars, go see it.
Yes.
It's great.
It's super great. For those of you who watched it, probably not tweet us spoilers.
Yeah. Don't tweet us spoilers.
But definitely, if you want to like get in on this conversation, because I definitely want to talk about this more at a later point. Like I have more questions, but I know we're running way over the usual.
Sure.
And we both have
jobs in the morning.
Yeah. So we're gonna cut it short, but I definitely want to return to this and talk more about my thoughts on Thanos, the movie in general. I know we just kind of touched the surface of that stuff.
Cody, are you saying that there might be an Infinity Wars Part 2?
Yes!
Yeah, I'd actually be really curious. Like, email us, don't tweet us because spoilers.
Yes,
and
please.
Don't be that guy. I would be very curious to hear everyone's answers to Cody's questions.
Yes, if you want to answer my question, please feel free because
I
am genuinely curious.
I feel it's going to be overwhelmingly our answer for the second part of the question.
Yeah, maybe that was a bit loaded just because I think he just killed it.
Yeah.
But yes. But I know everyone has a different attachment level to certain heroes.
Sure,
and stuff.
100%.
So
I know everyone.
I'm sure there's going to be some differences there.
Everyone loves Loki.
I wasn't.
You're not a fan?
Okay. I liked his character for a little bit, but I felt like he the whole. I'm dead. Now I'm back. Now I'm dead. Now I'm back. It just felt very.
About it actually, which I thought was kind of cool. But anyway, thank you so much for listening. Middle section has our information.
Yes.
Like, rate, share, subscribe.
Send us emails because we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yes. But anyway, signing off, this is Joe.
And I'm Cody.
And as always, stay nerdy.
Stay super nerdy.